Presentation of Vernon Manor, Vernon Acres, audited financials by Amber Tiggert, Greg Patel, and Herbert Roll.
I'm just going to make sure Greg is allowed to share. Everyone. Okay, good. There's Mary. All right. Are you with us, Greg?
86 years old.
Are you ready, Greg?
I am.
All right, sorry. You should be able to share your screen as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having us today. My name is Greg Patel. I'm the audit partner on the nursing home engagement. I put together a few slides to summarize the audit results, and then we have some financial information that we can go over. So, along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me, or I can take any questions that you have at the end also. As far as audit results, the financial statements contain a clean, unmodified audit opinion. That is what you strive for, and that basically says that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. We achieve that primarily through two phases of the audit. The first phase is to really look at your most significant accounting processes: payroll, receipting, disbursements, general journal entries. And then the second part of that process is to take your trial balance and perform test of transactions. An example of that is to take your cash trial balance amounts and tie those out to your bank statements less any outstanding activities. And then at the end of the audit, any internal control findings from the first phase of the audit are then reported. And there are three findings. One is material adjustments, and you'll see on the management communications letter, there's really one material adjustment in both Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres. And that really relates to your proportionate share of the pension, the WRS pension liability as it is this year. So I'm really confident that we can go over that, and Michelle could record that proportionate share and we could get rid of that material adjustments going forward. The second finding is a financial statement prep finding. Basically says that we prepare the financial statements in accordance with GAAP, and then we hand back to you. Management reviews it and accepts the content of the financial statements by signing the management rep letter. And then the third finding basically identifies segregation of duties. So at most nursing homes, there's not the most ideal segregation of duties, but we do have that as a significant deficiency, which is the lesser of the two reported findings. So the material adjustments and the segregation of duties were reported last year. I think we can also probably get rid of the financial reporting finding if we get rid of the material adjustments finding as well going forward. So those are all three very common findings across our client base. So I don't want to de-emphasize them, but they are common findings and nothing out of the ordinary, I would say. As far as financial results, we have your income statement here. Vernon Manors in the first column. And if we look over under operating income or loss, an operating loss of a little over $1 million. And then you have some non-operating items here. You have a.
Hey, Greg, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you zoom that out so they can see that?
Is that a little better?
I can see it now, but I don't know if it helps.
Can everybody see that? Kevin, can you see that?
No, I can't.
Could you do that?
We're still having a little difficulty, sorry. Oh, get better?
It's not in.
No, that's not in your packet.
I think if Greg can continue to summarize the losses, I mean, that.
I can send this over to Cassie after the presentation as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yep. So about halfway down here, we see the operating loss for Vernon Manor. Vernon Acres also had an operating loss. And then we have some non-operating items. A lot of times, the supplemental payment from the state, which, you know, really supplements the fact that their rates are not near your typical private pay rate. And they begun to phase that program out this year at the end of 2023. So when we look at the 2023 revenue, 181,000 for those supplemental payments compared to 536,000 in 22. And then you had some pandemic related grant revenue of 328,000. And then net loss before transfer in of 500,000 for Vernon Manor and approximately 300,000 for Vernon Acres. Vernon Acres has a transfer in from the county then of just over 200,000. And then the third line up from the bottom, change in net position, a decrease in Vernon Manor of 527,000 and a decrease of 90,000 in Vernon Acres. And overall, then a decrease of 617,000 compared to 167,000 in 2022. One key component that figures into the loss this year is really what I describe as a paper tiger, because I talked previously about your participation in the WRS retirement system. And that went from a net pension asset in 22 to a net pension liability in 2023. And so the loss to record that onto your statement of net position or your balance sheet was a fairly significant component of the loss this year. But, you know, that is never something, that liability is never something that becomes due where the county or the nursing home has to pay that proportionate share in. WRS typically will adjust their percentages for contributions the following year to achieve over 100% funded allocation. And it typically also flows with the market performance as well. So it dipped just below the 100%, and that's why it swung from a net pension asset to a liability in 23. The next slide is your cash flow statement. And that really tells you from a few different categories here where the cash inflows and outflows are for the nursing home and Vernon Acres. The most significant is your cash flows from operating activities. And it was a net cash outflow for Vernon Manor of 565,000 and Vernon Acres of 46,000. And then we can see some non-capital related financing activities. We see that transfer in from the county of 203,000. The county did have to advance another 154,000 overall to cover negative cash. And then you've got the grant and the supplemental payment proceeds here. Then typically the second most significant category here is the cash flows from capital and related financing activities. So you reinvested approximately $250,000 into your capital assets for Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres, and net cash outflows from capital related activities then of approximately $450,000 between the two entities, and then ending cash of $10,000 in Vernon Manor. As far as accounts receivable, always important to look at the receivables at the end of the year, and then the components of the receivables in terms of aging is important to understand what is collectible from that standpoint. So you can see from a historical perspective from 2019 through 2023, where the accounts receivable balance at the end of the year has been. Always important to note that rate adjustments figure into an increase in accounts receivable as well, not just a lagging in collection of accounts receivable. So I know in reviewing and talking to Michelle here, we have a $160,000 allowance for doubtful accounts, which kind of covers the $427,000. You've got 30% there that is greater than 90 days. And there's a payment plan or an anticipated collection of the remainder of that amount based off of the analysis. So certainly keeping the greater than 90 days down as low as you can get it is desirable. And then another important aspect of the performance of the nursing home is the, payer mix here. And so we've got a comparison of census days by payer type compared to 2022. And you can see Medicaid stayed predominantly the same, 34% compared to 33% of your revenues. The one positive result here was the purple indicates your Medicare revenue, and that increased by 14%. And Medicare revenue is desirable because of the various RUGs rates at which you're reimbursed for the services that you're performing. So, monitoring payer mix is certainly important to the performance of a nursing home. And as a result of that increase in the payer mix for Medicare days, the sales per day for Vernon Manor were $4,200 in 2023 versus $3,200 in 2022. So Medicaid also increased their rates, and I believe that as they sunset that supplemental payments program, what they are trying to achieve is increasing their daily rates more significantly and try and recover the operating deficit that their rates create. The next component is operating expenses and where have they been, where are they going? Obviously, in the nursing home market, staffing, being able to retain staff or use a nursing pool is always a very important component of the operating performance for the nursing home. So we can see a 5-year look back. This maroon line indicates total operating expenditures or expenses for the past 5 years here. And then the components of the expenses are below. So, the nursing services in the blue are the most significant component of your operating expenses. And you can kind of see the overall operating expenses flow very much with the increase or in 2021, you had a slight decrease in your nursing services, and the operating expenses overall kind of flow with what that nursing services component is. So with that, I would take any questions that you may have for me.
Greg, is there anything that jumps out of that report that you would have any recommendations on or any areas of concern?
I don't really have any areas of concern. I do think that the books are very clean, and I think that Michelle understands the financial performance quite well. The 30% of accounts receivable later than 90 days, if we could get that down, reduce that a year from now, I think that would be helpful going forward from a cash flow standpoint.
Any other
Anybody else?
questions? No? All right. Yeah, Greg, if you could email me your presentation, I will get that to the committee here.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You
You
too.
too. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, looks like our next action item up here is care and maintenance of chickens and therapy pet. So
These are two new policies. The little history, we just got, I think we still have 4 chickens at Vernon Manor. So we needed a policy for care and maintenance of those. And then we do have on occasion therapy pets who come in, and we needed a policy for those. The only policy that we've had in the past has been for pet visits. That one remains, but we did not have a therapy dog or cat policy.
we have four chickens out there now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we have a coop out there
Yes.
and a little pen for them.
Mhm.
So they're approving it. I'm like,
Please
let's see the
Get
chicken
inside for the winter.
Well,
Hey,
they're not-
Chris, we only have 3 chickens.
Oh, we only have 3. I thought, oh yeah, that's right.
We have Irma, Lucy, and Ethel.
Oh, I get another.
Irma,
Wow.
Lucy, and Ethel. Thank you,
Yep.
Kirsten. So we have 3. They're not staying for the winter. They're here from the early spring through the late fall. And then they'll go stay at someone's house over winter and come back in the spring.
So this is the policy and procedure we want to adopt.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions or concerns about what they have for their draft here? Do we have a motion to approve this as drafted?
I move that we approve the care and maintenance of chickens policy and procedure.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Any opposed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Therapy pet. Chris, you've been involved with this?
Mm-hmm.
Want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, there has not been a policy at Vernon Manor or Vernon Acres for therapy pets. We have a general policy for pet visits, but not for designated therapy animals. So this is the proposed policy and procedure for that. This one just says Vernon Acres Senior Living on the top. It should be for both.
Okay.
I gotta believe that's a popular thing for the residents to have.
It's extremely popular, yes.
How many therapy pets have you had come in on average?
We had an older lab who came into the therapy department. He is not here anymore, so now we have a medium-sized dog who's there almost every day. Activities usually takes care of him around to see residents.
So he comes right in the rooms then?
If invited, yes.
I didn't know if they, when they have that larger room there, if they have the animal come in there where they can all be together or?
Yep, that's a popular thing. Yes, the only place that the therapy pets can't be is in the dining room or in the kitchen area or in other areas when residents are eating.
What happens if you have a resident who has terrible allergies?
Yeah, then we will know it, so we keep the pet away from them. Yeah, and with our cleaning practices, we should be okay with that. We don't have pets who live in the facility, so.
Okay.
So that would be something that the nursing staff would look after and recognize that if there's somebody with an allergy, that they would keep them away from the animal. Yeah.
And then there would be the pet wouldn't be in rooms of allergic residents and things like that, so.
Can I make a suggestion, since this is a policy and a procedure,
Mhm.
that in item 6, that you task someone with being the keeper of those records?
For Vernon Acres is probably the tenant, but for Vernon Manor, it's the infection control
Yeah,
staff.
I would spell that out in the
Okay.
procedure so that if we have, a liability issue at any point, then we know who's responsible for that.
It sounds like two revisions in, we would add Vernon Manor to the top.
Mm-hmm,
And then in item 6, we would have a designated records keeper.
mm-hmm. And I think maybe for both facilities, it could be the infection control, infection preventionist, I should say. Change that to infection
Yeah, we
preventionist.
probably have to clarify that.
She has it for Vernon Manor already.
Probably like take an opportunity to discourage you. It's actually.
Has there been any more interest in other people bringing in animals?
People bring animals a lot for visits, so that's a whole different policy, and their shot records are kept by the infection preventionist too.
We have a motion to approve with the 2 revisions.
Also move.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Bruce, if I may.
Yeah.
So just for point of order as the chair. So typically when you have a motion and a second, you would state that you have a motion by Barb, second by Kevin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Okay.
I can write that down for you.
Oh, you,
Sorry, I should have said it last time, but, so yeah, typically you restate the motion, ask if there's any further discussion. If there's further discussion, then the discussion happens. If you hear no further discussion, you ask for a vote.
Okay.
Okay?
Any further discussion? Okay. Okay, now we'll have a vote then. All those signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7, review and approve minutes. Looks like we have March 8th, 2024, and March 27th, 2024. Everybody had a chance to look those over?
for one question that I had on the March 27th minutes, was, the part where we said motion was made by Mary Bringy to authorize the administrative coordinator to proceed with negotiations with offer to interim nursing administrator candidate. So that should read nursing home and assisted living facility candidate, administrator candidate. I think that's what the motion was.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the minutes for March 8th and March 27th, with the revisions?
I'll move that we accept those minutes with the revision.
Any further discussion?
You need a second. Did you have a?
I'll second.
Okay,
Now any further discussion?
yep.
Good one.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minute with that one revision, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to accept the minutes with that revision. Okay, audience to visitors.
Did we all approve?
We did,
That was.
as one motion, yep.
Okay.
Administrator report. Vernon Manor.
I think we, introduced myself here earlier.
Yeah.
This is week number 2,
Or maybe 2.5.
3.
Well,
So thank you. Yeah, pleasure being here, pleasure being with the staff and leadership positions.
Pete, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and before you came here?
Talking about myself.
Somebody else will do it if you
It's the trouble. I've been a nursing home administrator for roughly 25 years. Probably the last 9 years, 8 years, I've been doing a lot of interim work while I took care of my parents. So I had the opportunity to go in and out of probably 25 facilities, trouble or various states of repair, and worked with between a turnaround person for those facilities. Also, my other part of my history is I've 20 years in the Minnesota Air National Guard. Retired a few years ago, so all well-rounded. I'm well-rounded. I live in Eau Claire.
Thank you.
So the report, I have the census, and I'll start with the census at Vernon Manor is 52. We have 2 in the hospital. We anticipate them returning, so shortly we'll have 54 in-house, and of that we have 9 Medicare and Medicare-like babies. Vernon Acres, we have a census of 30 individuals, 27 rooms out of the 32 are occupied. And looking to increase the census there. And I have met with Vernon Manor, the hospital discharge planners in the community, and we'll reach out to the other discharge planners in La Crosse just to see what our referral sources are saying, communication and things like that. So kind of just investigating how we communicate with them and the processes. So as far as personnel, I have a personnel update. Vernon Manor, we have a few open positions. Full-time day and full-time PM CNAs, on-call CNA, a full-time PM LPN or RN. And then in dietary, we have a full-time cook and a part-time dietary aide. Right now, our agency usage, we do have a PM nurse and 2 CNAs. I anticipate trying to eliminate that within a month or so. We have students coming back from school. So that should clean up. Vernon Acres, we have Amanda White, who's the new program director. And Betty Nye is our part-time nurse over there. She's also new. They've been in their positions for, I believe, 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. They have a full-time resident care assistant and an on-call resident care assistant open right now. And I am just working on reviewing really all of the aspects of the operations of the campus right now.
Okay, we all take a lot of pride in that facility. It means a lot to our community and keeping everything viable. Is there anything you've seen so far? I know it's only been a short time, that would be, of concern that we need to get on a future agenda.
Not at the present moment. It's going to take a little more time to dig a little deeper in some things, but for future, there may be, yes.
As far as staffing seems to be an issue just about with everybody today. It's terrible we got to this point, but does that look like it's going to be an issue going forward?
Not for the summer. It's you have a good staff here. I guess better staff than a lot of places I've been and seen. And yeah, it's a good base to build on. It's a really good staff.
And Bruce, if I may, we are using a lot less agency staff than we were a year ago.
We, for a while, were up to 9 or 10 CNA agency and probably 5 agency nurses. So it's really changed a lot. The other thing to know is that CMS has proposed some staffing rules now that go in place this year and then next year. So within the next 2 years, and we're already meeting those staffing rules. So that's pretty impressive, I think. Yeah.
So it doesn't, it seems like you got staffing. Is that a trend that looks like it's going to continue as far as keeping things under control, or you can't really predict?
I think it's unpredictable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lonnie, you and I had talked about staffing before, and one thing that I know other companies and different things have done is to incentivize attendance, and being consistent and showing up for work. And I just wonder if that's something. Have you seen that in other facilities?
For showing up for work?
Well, I mean,
sometimes there's attendance bonuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's different programs. It's not used that often though. I would stress just working on the culture and making it a good atmosphere to work.
you want people, all the people coming there to be happy and glad to be there.
Well, you can't do that every day.
Yeah.
I was gonna hire you if you did.
Just work on the culture and having people at least enjoy work and enjoy their time with our residents.
I probably haven't had a chance to review the files, but as far as longevity of employment, what's our average length of employment for folks?
That's something we'd have to get back to you on.
Yeah.
Bruce. I mean, there's how many employees over there? 90 some? So that's not a number I can pull off the top of my head, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
There's a lot of come and go.
Yeah.
Transfer position.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That would take a little bit of time, but we could, if that's something you're interested in, we could definitely pull that together.
Yeah, I ask lots of questions. That's
That's
how we learn
I
stuff.
think
Yeah.
the longest employee we have right now is 34 years.
Wow.
Mhm.
The longest employee that we have has started since 1984.
Okay, so that's longer
40.
than that. That's 40.
Okay.
The culture of people staying with jobs as long as they used to has changed.
Does anybody have any questions for Pete on his report?
Oh,
Well, I just have one question. We basically have 55 residents right now. How many beds is there? Or,
We have 80 licensed beds.
okay, so capacity would be 80.
So we're quite a bit short then.
there's probably not a possibility of ever staffing 80 beds. I mean, we would have to use a lot of agency then, so you kind of shoot yourself in the foot if you add residents to add and
Staff.
add agency. It's, it doesn't financially work out very well. And that's kind of the way it is for nursing homes now. There's not a demand for skilled nursing as much as there is maybe for memory care and assisted living and other living options.
How many people or residents do we have now that are in there for memory care?
We don't have memory care.
We don't.
No, we have patients with dementia or residents with dementia who live there. However, the problem with Vernon Manor is that you can't keep them safe. And so, memory care is a specialty situation where you can, the unit is locked and you have staffing such that they can be safe. So
We're just not set up for that.
right, there are some residents that we couldn't take based on that. We just can't keep them safe.
Well, those extra beds, is there any plan for short-term use, people that need short-term care there, or?
For the extra beds, that's definitely administrator kind of level of,
I don't know
Where
if
the
we've
plan
done
would be.
respite. I mean, we've done respite in other buildings, we've done respite in assisted living.
We've done respite
And
at Vernon
keep it-
Manor too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
keep in mind that now that was a 120 bed facility, so those rooms were all semi-private, I believe, at the time. So, the trend is for private rooms.
Mhm.
I have a question. What is the bed tax now? We're paying bed tax on empty beds, whatever. What's,
$170 a month per bed.
geez,
And
whether you use them or not.
that tax goes to the state.
The AHS, yeah.
I think the hotels have a similar thing, but I never really realized that nursing homes would be under.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could generate just a separate accounting report on items like that we could have for a future agenda item, and how we could make some corrections on that? I mean, it's too big to probably even tackle in one meeting, but, it'd be great if we just had, a list of, we're kind of bleeding money and for this here, and what could we possibly do about that?
Mhm. Yeah, I think Pete's starting to delve into that too already with some of our vendors, not even just things like that, but all over, checking out that, which vendors are expensing the most money out to. And then we can also consider things like this too.
Well, as far as those rooms, is there any way you could designate them as something else so we didn't have to pay the tax?
Well, in order to not pay the tax, you have to de-license the beds.
Yeah.
So you'd have to decide, right? And in the industry, it's called right sizing. So you determine that this is the census that we can efficiently operate at, and that we're going for, say 60 beds. And then you basically de-license those beds, give those beds back to the state, get the license changed. And then you're able, and then, yeah,
And I suppose if you decrease that, that might have a negative impact on funding and grants and stuff going forward, maybe.
that I couldn't answer you on the grant.
I think with the funding, the supplemental pays, as Greg explained, are sort of a thing of the past. So I think that the challenge is, and you correct me, is like once you de-license, it would be hard to get the license back, the bed.
Yeah.
If you had a significant rise.
But he might have more knowledge on that.
For the last 10 years, about 7 to 10 years, Vernon Manor has been somewhere between 55 and 65 occupancy.
Mhm.
So, you know, Vernon Manor needing 80 beds would be pretty strange. Vernon Manor started out being 120 beds when it was initially built. And then over the last years, those beds have gradually been delicensed.
Okay, do we have a?
Could I interrupt, please? This is Mary. I've had my hand up for quite a while.
Sorry,
And I
Mary.
know that's all right. I think it would be in the best interest for Vernon Manor to look at getting our bed count down. I think the trend is to have single rooms. People want single rooms. They really don't want to share. That's not something that's a feature of the past. So I think we need to keep current with that. Second is, could we make a wing of Vernon Manor, a memory wing, and refit it for that to meet the demand that there is for memory care?
So Mary, a few months ago, at this committee, we had a discussion about dropping our bed licenses down to 70. And at that time, we were talking about the feasibility study as well. And so the decision then was made to not take any action on that until we decided what we were going to do with the feasibility study. And then this BSJ option was coming up at the same time. So if we did, as a county board, make the decision to go down the feasibility study route, there are several things they would look at. They would look at number of beds. They would look at alternative licensing. So, you know, memory care or CBRF. So those are options that we could explore if we decided to go the feasibility study route, but that discussion on the bed tax, the committee at that point decided to just wait to see what happened with the feasibility study.
Thank you.
Background for you. Yeah.
So that feasibility study, is that something we're doing right now?
So when we were in the process of developing the RFP for the feasibility study, we had put it out for proposals. We got 2 serious ones. We interviewed firms. We selected a firm. When we were just about to the point where we were going to select a firm, we were approached by Bethany St. Joe's about a management option. And so the decision was made to move forward to look to see what a management option would look like while still having that feasibility study on the table if we wanted to move forward with that. The feasibility study is $92,500. The funding has not been approved for that yet. We wanted to basically say you have feasibility study on the table. The feasibility study will look at 3 options. The first being, if we continue to operate the facility ourselves, what changes do we need to make so we aren't losing as much money as we are? The second being bringing a management company in. So we're fleshing out that option right now. And the third being to sell the facility. So those are the 3 options we had in our RFP that we put out for that feasibility study. So that's still there, that's still on the table. What we're doing now is fleshing out the management agreement so that we know what that looks like. And ultimately, this will be a discussion before the full board.
Okay.
Depending on which route we want to go.
Do we have a goal or a date that we want to come to an end time on making a decision?
That's entirely up to the board and how fast they want to go. So this is what you're going to see in closed session is the very first draft of what a management agreement would look like. I would anticipate for us to spend a couple months going back and forth on this with Bethany St. Joe's. So possibly this year yet. It just depends on how one, how any negotiations regarding this would go until we would have what would be a final form. And then any discussion, with this committee and ultimately the full board.
I guess I'd like to see Pete have a little more time in the facility and working with everybody, and get some more feedback from him, on what your recommendations would be. But I've had a ton of people ask me about Vernon Manor since I got elected to the board, what kind of direction we're going to be taking.
There's so many rumors out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it would be unwise for us to kick that can into another year. I think we need to, gather our information. I think we got a good person in Pete. And I think we need to gather that information and make a decision sooner than later on what direction we're going. Because like Kevin said, there's a lot of rumors just flying around out there. And that doesn't help us.
And we're all very much ground level getting here. I mean, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And I think you're the same way, Bruce.
Yeah.
But I can dissect information.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept Pete's report as read?
You don't need a motion.
We don't?
No,
Okay.
not an action item.
All right. Well, looks like next on the agenda is item 10, personnel updates for Vernon Manor.
I think he just did that.
Yeah.
Yep. And also for Vernon Acres, I think he pretty much
Yeah.
covered that too. Review March and April monthly bills for Vernon Manor.
All right, I'll make sure everybody has the packets. In your packet, you should have 2 paper clipped items. They are going to be probably on top of your red folder. It will say Vernon Manor nursing home expenses by vendor summary. Make sure he's got that. You got that, Lonnie?
These are the ones.
Yeah.
Everybody, okay.
And the top one is Vernon Manor.
All right, because we didn't meet last month, you're gonna have 2 months for sort of reviewing. The first one we'll go over is Vernon Manor Nursing Home for March of 2024. It's pretty much a full picture of all the expenses that we paid. I can go through some of them because this is new to you. I'll do really super quick, like Apollo Biotech, Apollo's medical biotech is just like x-rays and exactly what it says. Sometimes employees have mileage. CLI laboratory, they would be like, would do if we had testing we sent out. Some of these are just what I'll point out to you are, let me just summarize this. So Fusion, Grapetree, Maxim, those would be our nurse contracted pools. Those are the people that we staffing outside of our facility. I think it's important to note that. JT and Associates, they help with the cost reports. Some of them are just self-explanatory, and other ones, if you have a question, just let me know, raise your hand and or shout out. P cards, those are, just different expenses for different departments, like activities, buys things for residents, dietary, maybe they have to run out for special food items. Whipfly, they're currently helping us come on board, number 1, to finish the training with Shelley for billing, Shelley Bry, and also for helping us reduce our receivables, working on bad claims that are out there, trying to improve our numbers that way so we can process the claims. Any questions? Yes.
As far as our temporary staffing, I'm not familiar with Grapetree. Are we using local staffing agencies when we can? Or where are these?
I think our options are limited where we just, because of the specialties, they need to carry the license, the CNAs, LPNs. I don't think we have really a lot of local opportunity. Would you agree, Chris?
I think so, yeah.
It's pretty specialized.
Yep.
where some, I mean, for dietary, I think we've used referral staffing. That's sort of a local place, but that's rare. And can you jump in if you need to? Okay. All right. Any other questions for me?
Yes, I think 2 months ago, we made the motion to quit spending money on advertising for a while.
We're working on that, Lonnie.
You didn't quit.
Well, we had that interim. We are working with Chris Lander right now. We had to make sure when our contract ended, so that's in process.
We've already had the discussions.
So when we talk about advertising, I mean, are we, what type of advertising were we doing and what do we want to discontinue?
Probably the largest amount, we have a WVRQ radio, and that you'll hear them advertise for Vernon Manor, Vernon Acres during the local high school events. We have like little flyer in Lutheran General. River Valley Media is the one that we're working on dissolving.
I think they went out of business.
River Valley?
You don't get any chopper anymore, do you?
So
River Valley. it's
We just did an ad for them.
Our legal ads.
So if I had a parent or a grandparent or a relative, that I wanted to look for the best care possible, today you're going to look online. So is our website up to date? Are we putting our best foot forward so that people, if they were looking for that, are they going to go there and get the information they need to say, hey, I want to go and visit there?
It needs improvement. Kathy, do you want to?
Yeah, we do host on the county's webpage. There are pages for Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres. We're actually doing a complete rehaul of our website that we're hoping will go live in January. And get some real good, like better pictures, updated information on there. Our county website in general it's pretty rough, to be honest. Apparently it's a lot better than it used to be, but we're trying to make it a lot more user-friendly.
So does Vernon Manor have their own standalone website that people?
We have a Facebook page. Vernon Manor and Vernon Acres both have Facebook pages.
I can tell you this. There's a lot of things in the works, but we do have budgeted 50,000 and 55,000 both for each entity to perhaps do a marketing campaign depending on what happens with decisions being made. And so there is money there dependent upon how you guys proceed.
Do we have like dedicated staff like for our Facebook page to keep that fresh and updated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not involved with that part of it. Chris probably could elaborate.
Sorry for asking so many questions.
No, that's.
No, I don't do
Yeah,
the Facebook.
We do have, one dedicated person at Vernon Acres and 2 at Vernon Manor to keep that updated and keep posting pictures and things like that and events.
Connie, did you have any other questions about advertising expenses?
No, I think we could spend money elsewhere. I still think we need a full-time recruiter. Well, to get staff members and go out to the colleges and so on. I argued this for years. A couple of new people can hear that same begging complaint.
Yeah, do we have?
We have an HR department for the county. They handle all of the recruiting. We actually included in the 2024 budget to hire an HR generalist to help with some of that. But as far as recruiting to colleges, pretty much anything is done on Handshake. So it's all online. That's where the students go to look for postings. I have no doubts that our HR department is capable of handling recruitment for the facility. We've had this discussion quite a few times, but the fact is there just aren't a lot of candidates, and that's happened countywide. That's not, I mean, the nursing home is especially bad, but we aren't seeing the amount of candidates that you would 5-10 years ago. There's just not that many people applying for work.
Bruce, to answer your question about a website and Facebook presence, since Chris got on, the Facebook presence is alive. It was not. I brought up these questions before because I had a friend reach out to me that was looking for care for a grandparent in the area. Our presence online is very, very limited. We are missing the mark big time because just like you said, family members look online to see what's available for their parents and loved ones. So the longer we wait, those are beds that are not filled or rooms that are not filled. The presence of Vernon Acres signage is very small on the road. Most people don't even know we have assisted living, and that's a fact. Chris worked on that, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's just, we're not present. We don't have ads on TV like you see in La Crosse. People just don't know that we're out there and we have that beautiful facility available.
Well, as far as connecting with people and making them want to bring their loved ones here to stay with us, you know, video is cheap. It's something that we can do in-house. We don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And people like that interaction. But I think we need to have one or two people be the face of the facility, whether it's Pete or Chris or whoever it might be. Somebody needs to be the face that when they go to that website and they can say, okay, this is who we're dealing with.
We have had, and Michelle pointed out earlier that the advertising is significantly more than it was in the previous budget, because that is the direction we were going as far as creating a marketing campaign and you know, in order to help our census. But at the same time, we were doing the feasibility study. And so the thoughts from the committee at the time were, well, maybe we should just wait a little bit and not spend all this money at this point. So that's the discussion that the committee had previously had.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah.
Trying to provide some background for the new people. A lot of this stuff we've been talking about for many months.
I just know nothing about the inside management and the financials and how we got to where we are or whatever. But what I will say from visiting there, I think it's a very clean environment. It's a nice place to stay. Yeah, we probably need to toot the horn on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Looks like care is good there to me.
We have good staff, yep, and the residents are pleased with their care too. Because they like the people who care for them, so that's really nice.
it's a golden gem in our community, and we need to do what we have to do to keep going. Okay, let's keep moving.
Okay, so the second page, so that's March, and then behind it is April, and there is probably going to
February.
no
February. Yeah,
expenses. I'm talking expenses. So in April, those are the expenses we currently have booked, and again, those are pretty similar to what you saw previously. Nothing outside. MJ Cares is our therapy company. You won't see that yet on April. We're still working on that billing. So we used to have the board approve. You guys don't approve anymore. This is just as an FYI for you guys to see where the money is going on a monthly basis. Any questions for me? Yes.
So fringe benefits and payroll, you're just breaking them out for your staff, and is it just the normal fringe benefits that?
Yes.
All employees?
Health, life, WRS,
Okay.
FICA. It
That was
keeps,
something I think you had been requested to put in there, right? 'Cause
Yes.
You didn't.
I previously,
before,
yeah, and this is something, yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Body Ent is our postage machine, just trying to point some of those. Phoenix is our laundry, get our linens from there. Pinnacle, they're MDS consulting, MDS. It's a whole another topic, but they help the nurses define when a patient comes in. where they-
MDS is the data collection that's done for nursing that is directly tied to billing.
Kevin Matson, he's an entertainer for activities. He comes in to play music for the residents. A lot of these are nursing supply items. Performance we pay on a weekly basis so we can take advantage of their percent discount. I think it's 3%, Mary. What is it? 3%? 1%. Wish it was more. So Dr. Woody's our staff MD. So any other questions for me?
We have a motion to accept the.
Oh, you don't have the motion.
No
This is
motion
just
on
a-
that either. Okay.
This is just an FYI. We don't do that anymore, which is sort of nice, but I still want to, the board had requested still to review what we're spending on a monthly basis. If there are no more questions, we can probably go to Vernon Acres expenses.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Vernon Acres, Farmers State Bank, we have a loan out with them. You'll see that on a monthly basis. And again, we are able to tax levy those dollars because it is debt. We also have a Vernon Communication Rural Loan. It's for $300,000 interest free. We pay $30,000 a year. You don't see that yet on this. That's always due in December. Otherwise, I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but if you have a question, let me know. I know they're trying to get more entertainment over there, so you'll probably see more entertainers.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is our entertainment director, whatever, I'm not stating it right, is she now licensed or not? Because she
Activity
wasn't.
director, yeah.
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 She is now.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, and then back behind that is April. And again, I'm probably still having a couple April expenses. So next meeting, I'll show you a final of April and then where we're currently at in the current month. We always get our billings the first couple weeks of the new month for the previous month. Or expenses, I should say. They're pretty consistent. If there's anything out of the normal, I'll always point that out.
For the elevator, that isn't monthly, is it?
No, it's like semi-annual. It's in, and I
Probably
think there's
more of
an
a state-
annual.
Probably more of a state requirement
Yes.
to get it inspected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems kind of high.
For a month.
Right, I think that might be
Yeah.
an annual and I can't remember if that's an annual or semi-annual, but
Okay.
something to that effect.
Okay.
All right.
Closed session.
No, you're not quite done with mine. We're 12, number 12. That we're gonna review the financials in your blue and red folders. Maybe you can help them. It'll be pick out the red one first. We'll probably do Vernon Manor first. Yeah, yeah, get that. There you go. All right. So, I sent you guys an email with all of this, so this is just a paper copy for reference. I used to just bring the summary of the P&L, but then people wanted to see the detail of it. So it seems like a lot of information sometimes that I'm bringing to the table here, but we'll just pick the summary tab for Vernon Manor, which is the smaller, it's called the Vernon Manor Nursing Home Profit and Loss Budget Performance for February 2024. For that month, we had $165,000 loss. Part of that is attributed to that we took the allocation for workman's comp that hit us in February, which was $105,000. So that sort of had a heavy impact Other things that impact the P and L performance is a reduced number of census, probably not as many Medicare people as we would like. They're the money producers for the nursing home. So we were underperformed. So we have a net loss of 165,000.
So unemployment,
Working
What?
comp, or do you mean unemployment?
well, we're paying out money for unemployment for people that we don't get rid of, they just walk away.
This is workman's comp that we got hit with?
Yeah, we don't have any
We
unemployment.
don't have any unemployment.
Not right now, I don't think.
So what we got hit with was a workman's comp. So it's a
Yeah.
workman's comp. And because our mod factor, if I'm not mistaken, was a little higher, based on the findings of the audit, it was a little higher than we thought we were gonna
Yeah,
incur,
I don't have it in front of me. Which
Okay.
is your allocation.
105,000.
That's a tricky thing.
And I didn't budget that
Yeah.
much. So that hurt.
Well, if you keep retain good employees and you have less things, but the wages go up, so you pay more anyway.
Any questions for me on this one? I know you guys have a lot to cover yet. And because we're gonna look at March too. So the balance sheet. So the balance sheet is just, that's attached also, and that's just a picture of our assets and our liabilities. That always gives us good indication where we are with our cash flow too. So you never want to see a negative number in the treasurer cash. That's sort of what the county is floating us. That's a good summarization. Do you agree, Kim?
Yes.
Okay. We're working at reducing our payables. We have some private pay that are currently in collections, in legal proceedings. So, that's why we carry the bad debt expense of 160,000 to, if we have to write off, we'll draw off of that.
Do we use
We're
the
trying to
debt-
prove-
Do we use it, excuse me, do we use a debt collection, place for that or do?
Athens Swain.
Yeah.
They're the most effective, they're efficient, it's quicker,
And they're local.
and they're local. They're easy, accessible, and we have our hand on it better.
Yeah.
Any questions for me on February? We're still talking about Vernon Manor.
And then, I'm just gonna show Bruce what the
Comparison?
comparison.
Okay, sorry, I should have mentioned that too.
That's a nice one to look
Right.
at.
So the comparison, I'm sorry.
Right there.
So what I've done in the past, request from board members is sort of show you where we were last year versus this year. It's the colored one, Kevin?
Yeah, all right.
Okay. It sort of gives us, a view. Again, we lost more this month, 2024 than 2023, but that's because we also got hit with the allocation. If we didn't have that allocation, we probably would have lost less than we did February of 2023. We just hit in a different month in 2023, that's all. And I also provided for you below that is the nurse pool. So the nurse pool is our contracted staffs. So you can see where the trend is 2023 versus 2024. It is, like what Pete said, it is his agenda item, that he will, when Chris, that we are reducing. Chris, yeah, they both worked. We will hopefully see a reduction every month. I know it seems a little high. February, I think we might have had a couple sick staff. And so you can also see where we were in, where we are right now in the census versus where we were last in February 2023, way at the bottom left-hand corner. That's our census. And that has a cyclical effect on our performance, our.
I have a question, Michelle.
Sure.
The balance sheet
Yes.
as of March 31st, does this reflect everything from the audit then?
Yes, it's all of my adjustments in, my trial balance tied out, everything.
Very good.
Yes, feels good.
And then the same for Vernon Acres, I
Yes.
assume. Okay.
Yes, both of them. And I double checked the trial balance 3 times just to make sure nothing was missed. And
February will kill.
will kill.
How come that was so high?
We had a treatment at Vernon Acres.
Okay, was that the mattresses?
No, it was just one room. We had a bad infestation of bed bugs in that one room. We had to take care of that, but, the problem was resolved.
Yeah.
Well, you get a lot of personal items coming into there.
Right, from outside, right. If there's no more questions, maybe I can move on to March, the P&L for Vernon Manor so the performance for March. At the end of the day, we had a net income of $34,383.89. Another thing to note in March too, what contributing factors to the performance was that we do a food transfer that we have Vernon Acres pay Vernon Manor for food prep for assisted living. I do that internal transfer quarterly. And we also delegate to them our administrative time. So like Pete's, mine, Mary's, we make sure that because we do service them, that we transfer some of our hours to them. And I do that quarterly because it's just easier. So without that transfer, that was like $30,000. We probably would have been less income. I just like to point out factors. And then the comparison again, if you want to look at the March comparison, you can see this time last year, that's that last sheet, we lost 72,000. And I bet you any money that's when our workman's comp had hit us in 2023. And again, you can see the reduction, and this is what I want to show you. Our objective is to reduce nurse pool, and in March of 2023, we spent 140,000, and in March of 2024, we spent 60. So it still is a lot, but it's a downward trend. So, and again, last year we spent $1.286 million on nurse contracted pool. I budgeted this year 500,000. We're a little over budget, but I'm hoping we'll make up. We still have time. Census contributing factors in 2024, we had 56 census, in 2023, 54 of March. So a little downward trend there. You can see our expenses are a little bit down from the previous year. Any questions for me? And would you like to keep receiving these electronically before the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can always call me if there's things that you review and that you forgot to ask. Just reach out to me and I can try to answer them. Thank you.
So has everybody seen the proposal from Bethany St. Joe?
Oh, we're not there yet. We got to look at Vernon Acres.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're almost there. I'll try to go fast.
Here you go.
I'll go really quick. Okay, so we're going to look at Vernon Acres P&L, the profit and loss, their income statement for February. In February, just to summarize really quickly, they had a net income of 14,000. Yeah, it's in the blue folder.
There are 2 blue folder things.
Oh, I know. We used to have a big stapled packet and I don't know, but then we went to this and I don't know if it's more confusing or if it helps. We can always change it back.
I get a big stapled packet.
I know
I
you do.
can't keep track of all of that. Like, I just like going through it in order. Like, I
we
got that
can-
one time and I was like, I can't do it.
I know. So maybe that's something to consider or think about. We can talk about that because sometimes I feel the same way. And I know these documents. Okay, so the P&L for February, again, like, it was a net income of 14,000. If you look at last year's performance, a comparison, February 2024 versus February 2023, that's my nice colored package printed. Yeah, so there we go. Yeah. One more, Kevin. There you go. So you can see that definitely we're performing better revenue-wise income than last year. There's still a lot of improvement, and I know Pete's working and Chris has been working on that. Because we are, higher expenses, fully staffed, increased census. So in 2023, we had a net loss of 20,000, and this year we had 14. And eventually we will see a journal entry that comes in for the tax for our debt. And that's about $240,000 we'll see come in sometime during this year that will offset what we're paying out in our loan payments. And usually it comes in one lump sum, so 1 month looks really great. Ideally, it'd be nice to see it every month come in as I'm paying it out, but it doesn't work that way. Usually at the end of the year, we'll get the transfer in or sometime. And that comes from the county. We'll transfer that in for us. Any questions for me? Balance sheet wise, you can see the draw on the county cash. We're negative 574,000 on the balance sheet. The receivables are, oh my gosh, best payers ever. I never have to go knocking on any doors for any payments. They're really great. They do a good job of making sure everybody's stable financially. Any questions for me? Okay. And again, if you come up with a question after, you just reach out to me, and you've got my email and my phone number, or Pete, whatever. So in March for Vernon Acres, you will see a net loss of 22,000, and the attributing factors of that is because of what they had to pay Vernon Manor for the preparation of the meals and administrative services. So that I do it quarterly. It's just an easier thing than to do it every month. And what they pay us for their food prep is pretty minimal. It's like $3.90 for lunch and pretty close to that for dinner. So one could probably say they're not paying the fair share for that, but we're working on trying to true that meal price up a little bit better. They do their own breakfast there. So that's why you'll see Reinhardt on their expenses, is because they buy their breakfast food and snacks. And again, so March of 2023, they lost 47,000, and in 2024, it's 22,000. And I know there's a lot of things in the works to make that a better performance entity. Any questions for me?
Where is increasing the cost of that meal between the facilities? What would you anticipate an increase we would need to make that to at least break even to start with?
Off the top of my head, it's probably at least $5 and above. I mean, it probably doesn't take into effect, the last COLA increase and the inflation of the food. And so I'm working with the dietitians. I don't imagine I hope to have it done within the next month, of just trying to capture the labor cost and just get an average priced meal, taking the highest, the lowest, and trying to meet in the middle. But it's gotta be at least $5 and above.
I mean, also when you're feeding more people, you do things for, it helps you out in another aspect of it, just because you're not charging enough.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta figure that out.
And just so you know, Vernon Acres, those residents don't pay for their food, so that would be a way to offset if we increase things to think about. They don't pay for their meals. So most places in assisted living do.
That's just part of their rent or what? I'm not following here.
That's how it was set up in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm reviewing services.
And that is also a very nice facility.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Beautiful.
Any other questions for me? I'll let you guys move on.
Well, it can't be bad with all that, is it?
I
It'll
got
cost you, but your meals are free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for those reports.
You're welcome. Again, reach out with any questions. One of us. And we can get you answers or.
Yeah.
You bring the whole team.
We have to just record the time.
No, you can go back to work. You're
Oh.
good, because we're just gonna come out of closed session. We're done.
Okay, and then you'll just record the times for us
Yeah.
if somebody will.
Yep.
Okay,
I
perfect.
got you.
Okay, perfect. Here, Pam.
Oh,
Here we go. I'll just do that really quick before I leave.
oh, thank you.
There you go.
Yep.
Those four are pretty good too.
I've experience. I've been with these guys for a while. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice meeting everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy the sunshine.
Back to work.
Doing great.
Well,
This should.
it's gonna be a little choppy for a bit.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It
that's the
takes,
way with it.
it takes a little
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
I once had a town chair who it took him 2 years to get it. So, no worries. So when everyone gets back, then we'll need a motion to go into closed session.
Yeah.
And then someone to second it. It's up to you if you want me to do a roll call vote or not.
I think for the record, we should.
That's how I've always done closed sessions until I got here, and it's just.
I think we should.
So, okay,
Yeah.
so we'll do it that way then.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to hesitate for a minute because then I have to start moving people into different virtual rooms.
Yeah.
So that'll just take me a couple minutes. We'll go from there. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe,
Nobody over.
Lauren knows if it's in the Happy Valley.
Rub it open.
I guess.
It is.
So I don't think I'll ever have another dairy breakfast. It's the worst screwing of the year.
That's what we're worried about. We're looking at where we want.
Delicious.
That didn't happen.
I like crispy ones.
So we got.
I liked riding the bus last year. That was fun. My kids seemed to like it.
No bus system.
No bus,
We're gonna have to walk.
to tell them.
We've got.
Kevin, did they have a date that they were going to
Chris,
review 80?
we gotta go into closed session.
It's supposed to be
Okay.
after this year. Yeah. But I think they
All right.
downsized it so much that it's not gonna be anything significant.
Nice day, or do you think?
Yeah, that's.
I think.
Our past
perfect.
due is-
Been 32 or 33 years since it's had anything done to it.
Yeah,
Ready, Bruce?
I am.
All right.
Okay, so, can we have a motion to go into closed session? We have a second?
Second.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to do a roll call.
Yeah, we'll do a roll
Okay.
call, yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. Chris Brigham. Here. Bruce Kilmer.
Here,
Kevin Walliser.
Here.
Barb McNeil. Here. And Lottie Muller.
Here.
All right. And it is 10:34. All right. Bear with me here as I assign people to their rooms here.
can you see this?
What?
No, I have not seen any.
I know I always need one, so.
Let's put that in St. Joe.